So, if you've been on the internet in the past few weeks or so, or even played video games in the past few weeks, then you know that Destiny is out right now, and people have been playing it for almost, 2, 3 weeks now. And so have I. I got the game at launch. I was really excited about this game. I wouldn't necessarily say that I was as hyped up as some other people. I thought it would be a decent game and would definitely hold me over until later on into the holiday season when more games are coming out. I've been very reluctant to talk about this game, and this is probably going to be the most informal review I've ever done before. It's more or less a discussion on what's good and what's bad on Destiny, and ultimately how I feel about it, which I guess could constitute as a review, but not in a traditional sense. When I look at what people are saying about Destiny, it's divided into two different camps. There are the people who say the game is fun to play with friends. It's alright, it's okay, it's a decent game, they enjoy playing it, they don't really mind the fact that they have to grind or level up to get better gear or anything like that, and overall they're supporting the game and enjoying it. And then you have another camp which criticize the game for its lack of story, the fact that the game is not varied enough, that it's just another hallway shooter, and is a huge disappointment coming from Bungie. And I guess where I fall on this line is that I am right smack dab in the middle of these camps, and I feel so alone. First off, with this game, I bought it day one, been playing it since launch. Off and on, I have to work, and I've been working on other side projects too, coming up on the channel. I stopped an entire Let's Play because of Destiny. I completely ditched Sniper Elite 3 because it really wasn't going anywhere, and focused on Destiny thinking I would be able to record strikes and raids with my friends, but that's quickly starting to change. I'll get into that later, but the reason why I am in the middle, I enjoy playing this game. I think that people who are talking about it being a grind fest, they are correct. This is an FPS grind fest. Can the grinding be fun? In some ways, yes. Can it not be fun? Absolutely. Going through and playing story missions again with a slightly harder modifier is not a fun thing at all. And PvP definitely has a lot of issues. But at the same time, I cannot understand why I keep coming back to this game and playing it to acquire new gear, to level up that gear. I'm not exactly sure why I keep coming back to it, but my criteria for if a game is good or not is whether or not I feel like it's a chore to play. If I feel like a game is just overall it's boring, it's not going anywhere, I usually stop playing it, and that's why I give some games, bad review. Even some games that people really enjoy, I think are just nothing more than a chore fest. With Destiny, I keep coming back, and unfortunately, some of my friends already, even my own brother across the hall here, he doesn't want to play this game anymore. The raid came out, and he doesn't want to play the raid, mostly because everybody who had bought this game that he was going to go on the raid with have already quit playing the game because they feel the game is repetitive, it doesn't go anywhere, and there's a complete lack of content here. And I do have to agree with that. I feel like that Destiny is lacking in content. I don't know where the story went. There was a trailer that came out in 2013 which even shows you on Earth against you have an Awoken, which is a race in the game, holding a gun to you and talking to you with a flanged voice, and that is nowhere in this game. In fact, there are so few cutscenes in this game that the story in itself, story is almost non-existent. I know everybody touts this as being a $500 million game, which is something I get mad at every time I see that, because that was a line completely taken out of context. This game did not cost $500 million, but there is no story. And don't try to tell me that it's in the Grimoire, okay? Because here's the problem with having it on the mobile app or on Bungie.net. Destiny suffers from the same problem that Final Fantasy XIII had. Final Fantasy XIII did not tell you everything you had to know about that story in its cutscenes and playing through that game for 80 to 120 hours, however much you put into it. It's a pretty decent long game if you don't know what you're doing. Even if it is a hallway, you still have to do some grinding here and there. But all the story, everything that you had to know about the universe, was in the data log. Was in log entries that are in the start menu that you have to go read and go, okay, that's what that thing is. The same thing with Destiny. So, and I feel like that's the reason why people really didn't enjoy 13, because they didn't know what was going on, among other things in the gameplay, but we're not here to talk about 13. The Grimoire offers very little supplemental information to the game itself. So the excuse of, well, it's in the Grimoire, just read the Grimoire. I should not have to go to a separate source to get story on a game that's right in front of me that I should be... I mean, the line in the game that everybody's criticizing, I don't have time to explain why I don't have time to explain, is a horrible line and really adds insult to injury to this game. I think the game looks beautiful. I think the art design is great. I like the slight variations between the classes. I feel like they could be more varied. That may happen in the future. But I think that overall, it's a decent shooter. It's middle market. It is a middle market game that is masquerading as a AAA title from a AAA developer. And we can all point fingers all day long about whose fault it is, whether it's Bungie, whether it's Activision, but the fact of the matter is the product is out there. Supposedly it sold $500 million worth of copies in one day, which is supposedly record-breaking for a new IP. This game is going to get a sequel. The 10-year plan and all of this. So I don't really know what the future of this game is going to be. I don't know if they're going to release missions, brand new story missions over time, or if we're going to have to pay for an expansion in order to get all the content they obviously cut out of the game. I mean, let me give you an example. And I don't really like to use spoilers with this game because there's so little story that it doesn't really matter. At one point, you go to the planet Venus. Venus is inhabited by a bunch of robots that are not really robots. They're a hive mind with living material, and they travel back in time, and so they're time-traveling bioorganic robots that shoot lasers, and that's the whole point of Venus, is that you're trying to take these guys down. At one point, I get a random story mission where I'm taking on a separate race known as the Fallen, and I'm taking down one of their Archons or Kells or whatever they want to call them, and I don't really know why I'm fighting the Fallen on Venus if we're supposed to be dealing with the robot race, the Vex, and stopping their advancement into taking over Venus. It's all over the place. It has no fluid structure. It's broken into pieces, and it's like somebody just dropped glass and you're trying to put the pieces together, and they're not fitting too well, but you're trying your damnedest to get them to fit, and it doesn't work. Gear acquisition. That's an entirely different thing. You've probably seen it. If you've been playing this game, then you know exactly where I'm going with this. The Cryptarch. The Cryptarch is a vendor in the tower, which is where you go to turn in bounties, buy weapons, visit merchants. You get these drops called Ingrams, and you never know what you're going to get inside, but there's a probability, like, for example, I'm at level 25 and I'm getting blue ones. Blue ones are considered to be rare. They can potentially give you a blue gun, which is a rare gun. There's a very small potential for getting a legendary item, which is, the awesome, you definitely want this kind of item. Or a green one, which is considered to be uncommon. You don't really get the white drops anymore, because once you hit 20, normal, common guns, you don't get them anymore. You turn these into a merchant known as the Cryptarch, and he decrypts them, and it gives you a gun, a piece of gear, sometimes even materials used to upgrade your weapons and armor. And you've probably heard this a lot before when it comes to the Cryptarch. Somebody, I took in, and this has happened to other people before, I've taken in a purple engram, a legendary one. It's supposed to give me a legendary item. And it didn't give me a rare, a blue one, which it has the potential to do. It gave me a green one. It gave me an uncommon gun when I picked up a legendary drop in a mission. And it is incredibly frustrating when you go through all that hard work, go through those high difficulties playing with your friends, playing for an hour and a half to get a purple drop, and instead you get a green uncommon, which is twice as weak as the weapon you're currently using. Now, Diablo 3 recently came out on the PS4, and I've sampled a little bit of Diablo 3. And the loot drops in Diablo 3, they got that nailed down pat. I mean, I know people criticize Diablo 3 a lot, but when it comes to a loot system, Diablo 3 has this thing much better than Destiny. So, hopefully, maybe, Bungie will rework the system which deals with the item drops. I don't know. And then we move into the multiplayer. PvP. Sorry, my computer is like taking off over here and I don't even know why. PvP has issues. PvP can either be very fun. Usually it's really fun when I'm playing with friends in a fire team, but never by myself. I find that even though Destiny is an always online multiplayer game, the lack of communication in this title is dumbfounding. I mean, in order to communicate, people do not want to communicate in this game at all, and that's more of a fault of the community, but at the same time, Bungie should have had a way to incentivize people to play, to use microphones and to communicate with each other. They don't. And then people get frustrated when they play PvP because their team's not communicating, and then they just stop. And even though PvP is reminiscent of Halo, it is incredibly unbalanced. And while I don't think that Halo had the best multiplayer on the planet, at least this reminds me more of Halo 3 as opposed to Halo 2, Halo 3 didn't have the best multiplayer on the planet. And the Crucible in this game reminds me of Halo 3, in the fact that even though the weapons are scaled to a stagnant level, which gives everybody a fair chance, those weapons still have the passive abilities. For example, I have a hand cannon, a pistol, which, when I shoot somebody, it has an explosive bullet. Causes a slight explosion damage on them, dealing out more damage. Even though my initial shot does the same standard damage, I still have that passive effect, which unbalances the game. And, I could go into how shotguns are king on Rumble, or how grenades are king on Control. Multiplayer in this game is just not interesting at all. The bounties are not interesting. It's your typical capture so many objectives, play this amount of matches, get this amount of headshots, or defeat 25 of this type of enemy. The bounties in this game are just not interesting. If they had bounties more in line with, say, how they deal with the exotic bounties, which require you to do different types of missions and do different types of strikes, and then perform certain actions in the Crucible, that would be perfect. But not every bounty is like that. Instead, you get melee 30 enemies, melee kill 30 enemies, and it doesn't even have to be in PvP. Kill 20 enemies without dying, earn 9,000 experience without dying, complete a strike, or complete a strike with a slightly harder modifier. It's not interesting. And this game had so much potential to engross players into a giant world, a brand new universe. Bungie had us in the palm of their hand, and they didn't deliver. And now I'm out $100 because guess what, guys? I had enough faith in this game to buy this. Mostly because I wanted a steelbook, but $100. And my brother's out 60. And he doesn't even want to play the game anymore. Instead, he just wants to wait on Assassin's Creed Unity. I haven't even played the raid yet, because all of my friends are starting to quit playing Destiny, and some of them are even going back to Battlefield 4. Probably one of the biggest multiplayer disasters of the past 5 years. And they're going back to that. I don't know what Bungie is going to do about this game. Hopefully, they fix it. Hopefully, there will be more content. Hopefully, their 10-year plan works. Am I still going to play the game? Yes. Do I still enjoy playing the game? Yes, to a certain extent. But with October on the horizon, with things like Alien Isolation and The Evil Within, I mean, I'm a survival horror guy. I love that genre. With those games coming out, I may just put Destiny on the shelf until December when the expansion comes out. I don't know. I'm completely split when it comes to Destiny. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know what the future lies for this game. Hopefully it's a very bright one. Hopefully Destiny 2 fixes a lot of problems that I had with this game, but I shouldn't have to buy the sequel to get this stuff fixed. That is my number one concern. And you know, people are criticizing Destiny for its lack of story and lack of content, but you know what? People still buy Call of Duty every year, and it's rehashed every year, except for maybe this new one. This new one looks slightly interesting. It's making me want to actually buy it. Or even rent it. Or something. Destiny, in the end, is just another drop in the bucket for mediocre games that came out in 2014. Is it as big of a disappointment as Watch Dogs? No. No, definitely not. Is it still a disappointment? Yeah. But at least I still want to go back and play Destiny. I guess for the sake of this being considered a review, do I recommend you buy this game? It depends on what you're looking for. If you're someone like me who, works almost 40 hours a week, usually nighttime shifts or something like that, you could easily pick this up and, play for about 1 or 2 hours at a time and put it down. It's an easy game to pick up and put down. If you're looking for something that has a lot of substance, has an engrossing story, a brand new universe with all new characters, all new races, great character, you're not going to get that here. But it is a very pretty game to look at. I'll definitely give Bungie that, but I don't know what's going on with Bungie, but future's not looking bright unless they change a lot of things with Destiny. If I had to give Destiny a grade, I'm not going to be too harsh on it. Mostly because I still want to play it. But at the same time, the game plays good, but at the same time, there's nothing here. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. 60%. This game had the potential to be a 9, potentially a 10. And 30-40%, it's a decent amount of some decent numbers to lose on my scale. Hopefully the game will improve. 6 out of 10 for me. Phantasm Mask here. Signing out.